Hey guys, it's Wednesday, 4:23 p.m. on October 10th, 2018. And as you can see by the pileup of icons here from my QuickTime player, I have tried to record this video several times and my computer keeps crashing. I get about 60% of the way through the video, which hopefully won't be that long, and the recorder just says aborted. It stopped. Please try recording again. So what I've decided to do is go through this old school because I think the information that I have to share with you here is probably the most important information that I've gathered in the entire course of the investigation, short of any of the buoy datas that I've been able to show you where we don't have any hurricane wind speeds at any of the places where a hurricane allegedly hit. This time, folks, we actually do have a hurricane, and it's the way the hurricane hit that is of such great value. So I'm going to give you an overview here. What I'm going to demonstrate to you guys is that we did have a hurricane. We had a hurricane come in, and I actually captured it live as it was happening, and that was the first series of failures that my computer started to experience. And what I was showing you in that video was I was saying, let's do a walk down the beach. So I literally took you guys down here, and I show you that at Mexico Beach we had 80-mile-an-hour winds. But they stopped right here at Overstreet. And they dropped down to like 45-mile-an-hour winds. So literally within like a 2-mile radius, we had no winds here in Overstreet. Then I took you from Mexico Beach. I took you up to the Tyndall Air Force Base. We had 86-mile-an-hour winds. Panama City, we had 86-mile-an-hour winds. Panama City Beach, which is literally like 20, what is it? Look, here's where it says here. It says it's 20.62 miles distance between Mexico Beach, in a linear straight line, between Panama City Beach and Mexico Beach. It's only 20.62 miles. So for some reason, you guys, we had a hurricane that hit somewhere between Mexico Beach and Overstreet, because Overstreet didn't show any hurricane force winds. They showed like 48, and I'll show you all this in a minute. Overstreet, the highest wind speed captured during this time while this hurricane hit was like 40 something, right? Youngstown, the same thing. Sunnyside, the same thing. Panama Beach, the same thing. There is only a 23-mile area, 23-mile distance that this hurricane hit with 86-mile-an-hour winds, and we did not find anything on the shore here. We did not, and I'll show you that right now. I'm going to take you to the buoys, and I want to show you that all these buoys, the closest thing we have here, you guys, is a 61 knot, which is close, but it's still shy of hurricane force winds. And then I'm going to just scroll down. All this buoy data. And you're going to see we've got 40s, we've got 15, 27, and I'm just going to keep scrolling. You guys can slow this down in slow motion if you want. But this is just literally to capture the data while I have it available, while we have it available to us. There is no hurricane caught in any of these buoys. And the buoys, you guys, I'm going to reiterate, the buoys are what we measure these hurricanes by. It is by these buoys, and then once the storm comes on land, it is at the airports that we actually capture this data. So there's the whole pile of data from all the buoys. And as you can see, there are hundreds of buoys. And the closest, highest wind speed we got was from one buoy reading 61 knots, which is still shy of a hurricane. And I'm sorry, that's just the way it is, guys. You may not like to hear this, but this is just the way it is. We do not have one single buoy picking up a hurricane in the water. So basically what I'm telling you guys is that, I'm going to take you back to Google Earth here. We have a strike zone from Panama City, which is here, to the Tyndall Air Force Base that impacted a little bit. It got up to 74.5 miles an hour here at Mexico Beach. But just this area, it did not hit Youngstown. It did not hit Overstreet. It is more like a freight train went through here. Now, this may not seem like a big deal because we're looking at a map in an area that we're not that familiar with. But let me show you, relative to the size, what this should look like. Okay, what I did here was I actually drew a 2-scale map with what it's actually NASA, NOAA, same thing. What NASA's or NOAA's advisories have been telling us. They tell us, let's see, hurricane force winds right here. This is the paragraph I'm looking for. If hurricane force winds stretch out 45 miles from the center of the hurricane, and we know that the hurricane started at 86 miles an hour, then hit 86 miles an hour. I drew this to scale relative to this map down here to show you 45 miles to, because the eye of the hurricane hit right here, 86 miles right here. And I'll just put this down a little bit lower so you can see. 86 miles. We got 86 miles an hour in Panama City. We got 86 miles an hour in Tyndall Air Force Base. And we have 86 miles an hour down there at Mexico Beach. But that's it. But if you use how far out the hurricane force winds should have extended, this is how far out the hurricane force winds should have extended. They should have extended a good 35 miles further. It should have engulfed Sunnyside. It should have wiped out Youngstown. It should have taken out Overstreet, Florida. But it didn't. Now imagine this. This is the hurricane. Now, this would be just for the part where you have hurricane strength winds from 74 to 86 and then 86 to 74. But then, you guys, it says here that it should have, wind speeds should have extended, tropical force winds, which would be 49 to 73 miles an hour, should have gone up to 185 miles from the center. So I can't even draw that on this map. I mean, I can't even do that because my paper is only 12 inches long. It would have taken us another 80 miles over to the east and another 100 miles to the west. So let's imagine this is what that hurricane was supposed to look like. Okay, this is what it was supposed to look like. It should be spinning around and hit everything in this area. And it didn't. It didn't, you guys. Instead of this hurricane actually hitting like this is the radius of the entire hurricane. Because by the time we get to Overstreet here, you guys, the wind speeds are under hurricane strength. They're way below. They're not even hardly tropical storm force winds. This was more like a weapon hit this area. And it only had a trajectory that it moved inland by about 20 miles at the most. At the most. So what I have to do is I have to demonstrate this with you. So let's go to Panama City Beach first. You'll see this is Panama City Beach. All right. And we're looking at between 12 and 1 o'clock. And here's what we're going to see. We're going to see that the wind speeds were at 12:36, 46 miles an hour. I hope you guys can see these numbers. 46 miles an hour. And they rose steadily from 11 o'clock in the morning. And you can notice that as soon as the wind speed increases, so like here, the wind speed goes up from 32 miles an hour to 36 miles an hour. As soon as it went up those 4 miles an hour, it registered that. So that happened in a period of 7 minutes. 20 minutes later, the wind speeds went up to 36 miles an hour. So you can see as the wind speed increases, it goes from 30 miles an hour to a peak at 46 miles an hour at 12:36. Okay? Now, let's go to Panama City, which according to Google Earth here is literally Panama City Beach and Panama City is like they're 3 miles apart. Okay, 3 miles apart. Let's see what was happening in Panama City at the exact same time. Panama City, Florida. Okay, now we're going to go to detailed observations over the last 48 hours. And here, remember, that scale ended at 12:30 something. So this one takes us to 12:24. But look at these wind speeds, you guys. This is the precision with which the World Trade Centers went down. I mean, we're talking highly isolated strategic hit. Look at these wind speeds, less than 3 miles away. We have wind speeds that started increasing. Okay, so everybody was on an even playing field at about 11:14. See, 37 miles an hour. The wind started increasing at 11:30 to 40 miles an hour. Then at 11:35, we have 45 miles an hour. At 11:40, they increased to 56. They drop down to 53. They go up to 55. Suddenly, at 12:08 p.m., we have 82 mile an hour winds. This is when I started recording. I caught the 86 mile an hour winds at 12:12. But the 86 mile an hour winds, you guys, they only lasted about 8 minutes. And then they dropped to 77 miles an hour. Then 1 minute later, it dropped to 72 miles an hour. And by 12:24, everything was back to normal. 48 miles an hour. And that's it. And that is within a 3-mile distance of Panama City, which the highest wind speed was, I don't know, let's see if we can get back to Panama City Beach. Panama City Beach, the highest wind speed recorded there was 46 miles an hour by 12:30 p.m. 12:36. What I'm telling you guys is huge. This is huge information I'm sharing with you. Now, let me show you Tyndall Air Force Base here in Florida. Same thing. Almost, this is nearly identical to what we saw at Panama City. Again, we're going to see at around 11:45, the wind speeds start picking up. And they get up to, I have to look out for my camera. Okay, at about 11:45, they get up to 55 miles an hour. The next change in wind speed is up to 82 miles an hour. That's at 12:08, exactly like what we saw at Panama City Beach. Let's hope this is focused. Okay. And then the wind speeds go 86 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour, 84 miles an hour, 86 miles an hour. At 12:20, okay, we're talking 12 minutes later, the wind speeds drop to 77 miles an hour. Then 1 minute later, they drop to 72 miles an hour. And then 3 minutes later, they drop to 48 miles an hour. You guys, that is not this by a long shot. That is not this by a long shot. Okay? If this is the hurricane, as it's moving, you guys, imagine the storm moving, the wind speeds should decrease down over the course of the 200 miles. So if this storm was going for, if this storm was going, let's say the storm's going 10 or let's say it's going 20 miles an hour, it still has 185 miles to go. This storm should have been continuing for hours and hours and hours as it reduced from 86 miles an hour to 39 miles an hour. But that's not what happened. It literally, it's like a cannon hit this place. It goes from 86 miles an hour at 12:20 to 48 miles an hour 4 minutes later. You guys, there is something completely messed up. You can't explain this any way using a hurricane as your model. No way whatsoever. This was not a hurricane that hit Panama City. Now let me show you the next city here in line. I have to show you Mexico Beach, because that's the next place that this took a hit at. Let's go to Mexico Beach really quick. Mexico Beach, Florida. Okay, we're going to go to Mexico Beach. We're going to go to 48 hours observed details, and we're going to scroll down here, and we're going to see that here we do see a little variation, just a bit though. It drops to 48 miles an hour. Well, actually, no, this is almost the exact same cannon. This is actually, I'm sorry, you guys, it is no variation. 11:45, the wind speeds are up to 55 miles an hour. No, there's no variation. This is exactly the same. Exactly the same thing. Now, you think that's something? Okay, let's look at Mexico Beach here. Mexico Beach is right here, right? Let's look at Overstreet. Let's look at Overstreet, which is literally like, I don't know, what is this, like 2 miles away? 4 miles away? Okay, let's go to Overstreet, because we should surely be seeing those same readings at Overstreet, Florida. So let's type this in. Overstreet, Florida. Let's go to past observations. Okay, we'll scroll down here. Look at this, you guys. Nothing anywhere close. We have some gusts. We do have some gusts. But remember, hurricane force winds are registered by sustained winds. So these are sustained winds between, let's look at 11:45, because the wind speed stays the same from 10:53 at 31 miles an hour. Then it changes at 11:03 p.m. It goes up to 40 miles an hour. It's still 40 miles an hour at 11:20. At 11:53, it is now 49 miles an hour. But the next height it goes is at 12:53 at 58 miles an hour. You guys, the blast that hit Mexico Beach did not hit Overstreet. That is impossible. That is a 4 mile distance, you guys. That is absolutely 100% impossible if you're talking about this. If you're talking about this storm right here, you guys, that is impossible. Because the highest wind speed we record here in Overstreet should be very, very close to 86 miles an hour. Darn, is this thing focusing? Okay, for 58 miles an hour. That's it. That's it. This is like 30 minutes later. This is 30 minutes after the storm had just hit Tyndall Air Force Base. You guys, what I'm telling you is huge. It's huge. Then we have Youngstown. Let's look at Youngstown because that's the next city to, let's see, Youngstown, Florida. I'll show you that on Google Earth. Youngstown is up here. See Youngstown? Oh gosh, is this thing focusing? Darn. Okay, this is Youngstown right here, right? So we're talking a distance inland of, hold on, Youngstown to here. We're talking 27 miles, right? Let's look and see what happens at Youngstown. Youngstown, we're at Youngstown, Florida. I'm going to go to 48-hour reading. And look at this, you guys. Same time that this should have been spinning through, okay, hurricane force winds to a 90-mile diameter, right? This thing should have been, this thing, I'll show you here on my little thing. Watch. Okay, this should have passed over Youngstown just about the same time. We should be seeing 74. As it approached Youngstown over that 20-minute period, it should have really been blasting Youngstown by 12, I don't know, by 12:20. But look what happens. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is remarkable. Look at this. 11:27 a.m. The wind speeds are 36 miles an hour. I hope this is focusing. Okay, 11:27, 36 miles an hour. 11:36, 36 miles an hour. 11:53, 38 miles an hour, 38 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, 46 miles an hour. How is that possible? How is this possible when there's literally a hurricane destroying Panama City? You guys, Panama City at the exact same time was getting hit by 86 mile an hour winds. How could those winds not reach out to Youngstown, which is literally 13 miles away? According to this, you guys, the eye of the hurricane hit Panama City. As this storm is spinning around, you should at least see 74 mile an hour winds. But you don't. You don't see anything wider than this. You guys, what I'm telling you is that a targeted blast hit Panama City in the Air Force Base, but nothing else. You guys, I don't even know what to say. This is shocking, and this is why these wind speed readings actually count so much. Because if there was a hurricane hitting 4 miles away, there was a hurricane of 86 miles an hour hitting at this time right here, when 4 miles away from here. You guys, that is impossible. If there's a hurricane of 86 miles an hour here, 45 miles should have felt the impact of that hurricane. And we're not even seeing that within 4 miles. Youngstown and Overstreet. You guys, what I'm showing you is shocking. Now let's look at Sunnyside. Sunnyside is right here. Let's look at Sunnyside at the exact same time. I hope you guys get what I'm telling you. This is such a big deal. Sunnyside, Florida. Okay. Here we go. 48 hours. Let's go. Okay, let's take a look at what was happening here at 11:30. 11:30, we have 33 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, 32 miles an hour. 12 o'clock, we got 36 miles an hour. 12:27, 36 miles an hour. 12:36, 36 miles an hour. Right now, there are 86 mile an hour winds happening less than 10 miles away. This is shocking. By 1:36 p.m., you guys, and look, this I'm not even, you guys, this is for sure. This is October 10th. This is today. These are today's readings. Okay, Sunnyside, the highest wind speed we had was 46 miles an hour at 1:36 p.m. And yet, what I've just shown you is that a hurricane literally blitzed through Panama City, and less than 20 miles away, we don't even have half that wind speed. You guys, I really hope you get what I'm laying down here. It was like a targeted weapon hit Panama City today. There's something messed up. What, you guys, the whole enchilada I have just wrapped together for you, showing you these wind speed data, this wind speed data from all these buoys. We can't establish that there was a hurricane in the water leading up to the shoreline. So that means all this stuff here, we can't establish that there was a hurricane anywhere here. We can't establish that there was a hurricane anywhere here or anywhere here. We have a 23-mile area where a hurricane supposedly hit with an Air Force base right smack dab in the middle. This is literally the most important video I think I've ever made relative to having all the other data that I have compiled for you guys for the last year. I've literally just shown you free fall speed. Free fall speed, guys. Hurricanes don't hit a limited strike area of 23 miles and pop up to 86 miles an hour and then drop down to 40 and not extend more than 23 miles from the area that they were hit. Something super, super messed up is happening here. All right, you guys, I'm going to keep researching. I'll let you know what I come up with. Have a good day.